Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who just said, what the hell? German rap music. Why not? You know, I try to talk a lot about hip-hop, about the international value of hip-hop. I've done reviews of British hip-hop, American, Canadian, Ghana, you know, I've tried to really mix it up. And so I happened to see on my title feed this album by Dissy, D-I-S-S-Y, the album Bugtape. And I just said, what the hell? I just started listening to it. Before I get into it more, I will tell you it is a very enjoyable album. Very nice to listen to, very well constructed. If you like hip-hop that very successfully integrates production elements from electronic dance music, then this is it. You won't understand a word, but it doesn't really matter, right? The flows are good, the production's good, the music is good. So I go in and I'm getting ready to listen to this, right? Like, I listen to like 3 songs, I'm like, I'm gonna do it, okay? I don't know anything about German rap. I know a lot about American rap. I know a lot about French rap, but nothing about German. So I'm just sort of picturing, like, well, I'm just gonna imagine that this is, I don't know, a typical thing where Germany has hip-hop in the same way that most countries do, where it's the voice of the voiceless. I was trying to think about what do I know about Germany, so I sort of imagined, well, I know there's a lot of Turkish immigrants who probably feel displaced and alienated, so maybe that's what this is all about. Well, Dissy is not, as far as I can tell, an example of someone who is a son of Turkish immigrants. Maybe he's from the underclass. I don't know that either. I can't tell from his lyrics. Maybe he is geographically alienated. Thanks to Google Translate, which doesn't work but works well enough for my purposes, I've discovered that he's from Erfurt, which is in former Eastern Germany. So maybe there's some kind of cultural resentment there for being a part of Eastern Germany. Maybe he grew up in one of the beautiful Bauhaus-style tenements. I don't know. So I'm kind of sitting here and I'm stuck, you know. I've got this album, I like the way it sounds, I have things to say about it, but I don't know anything about how does it fit within the context of greater German hip-hop. What do? I go to Reddit. I go to a subreddit, r/German rap. And I just asked, hey, this is going to be my first German rap album, what do you think? Now, I didn't get a lot of responses, which makes sense. It's a German language forum, and I went in there like a big dumb American with a camera around his neck. Sprechen Sie English? You know, and I'm sitting there, and but the responses that I got were actually very useful. The first one I got was someone saying, I don't know if that's a good first German rap album to listen to be honest. To which somebody responded, it is, as long as the original poster does not expect the 10th copy of a SoundCloud rapper. Dissy is kind of an unwieldy rapper. The beats, he produces all of his own beats, are sometimes not easy to digest. The lyrics are honest to the bone, to the point where it hurts to listen to all of his self-blaming and anti-everything. So that really helps me, okay? So already I'm able to understand, all right, so this guy is not a part of the mainstream of German hip-hop. He's self-produced. He's very honest with his lyrics. I'm thinking maybe sort of a, kind of like in the Open Mike Eagle territory or the Aesop Rock territory or the Rap Ferreira territory that I've been doing lately with underground rap that's mostly, you know, made by people who have, you know, honesty and self-production at its core. And then I had one more comment, which was very useful. Someone just said, listen to Kool Savas, Koolsavas, and I did. So what was cool was, listening to Kool Savas, I heard what I was expecting from German rap. A very American-influenced, distinctly German rap, made by somebody whose parents were born in Turkey. It sort of filled all of the expectations. It reminded me a lot of where mainstream French hip-hop is now, although, frankly, it was better than a lot of the mainstream French hip-hop I've been listening to. And this helped me to really understand that this Dissy, who I'm going to be reviewing, really is a part of the underground, the sort of international hip-hop underground of artists who are not having things that are primarily melodic, things which are not produced by multiple people, not designed for the radio, not designed to take over the world, but sort of being that kind of arms-folded, real hip-hop style. So he's an underground guy. And this is the great thing, right? I mean, isn't it one of the most beautiful things about hip-hop music? That wherever it is, there's the mainstream and there's the alternative. It is such an effective tool for individuals and groups to express themselves that it can be created and have so much meaning and so many different kinds of meaning all at once. So here we have this kind of Aesop rock of Germany, kind of a cerebral guy. And really, what I found most interesting, production-wise, is the ability to merge with many different elements of electronic dance music. Techno, whatever. There's a real sophistication in the production, which makes it worth listening. Now listen, you might be rolling your eyes, being like, well, what does German electronic music have to do with hip-hop? Well, before you roll your eyes, don't forget, German electronic music is part of the DNA of all hip-hop. It is one of the bedrocks that created the sounds that define hip-hop music. If you go back to the old school and you think, who are the most important samples in the history of hip-hop? You know, obviously, James Brown has like 5 of the top 10, but also in there, of course, Nile Rodgers and Chic. But then you have Kraftwerk. Afrika Bambaataa and his kind of futuristic hip-hop style, his usage of keyboards and that kind of aesthetic came directly from sampling Kraftwerk. In particular, the song Trans-Europa Express, okay? So, like, it's not like German techno or German electronic music doesn't have its place in hip-hop. So it's kind of nice. It's an interesting idea to imagine this as being a sort of return, you know, like sort of like in the same way that rap from Africa is funny because it's African Americans exporting their influence back to Africa, which originally influenced them. But I might be going a little bit too far. So this, I would not say this album is intentionally trying to sound like Afrika Bambaataa or anything. It's just a fun thing to remember and keep in mind. Each song is masterfully produced. It really is. I mean, everything develops really well all the way throughout, and you have to listen very carefully to hear what's going on. This is not a lazily produced album. It has a sort of master vision, and that's very clear. A lot of the songs lead into each other. There's a lot of instrumental interludes, which either take pieces from the song before or from the songs after, and sometimes from both. So it has a very cohesive feel. The whole thing feels almost like a theme album. I don't know what the theme is. I don't speak German. I don't understand the lyrics here. I translated some of them with Google Translate, but that will only get me so far. He does produce, or at least co-produce, most of the tracks on here, which is quite nice. It gives more of that personal feel. I would say as far as influences, the thing I hear the most is Kanye's Yeezus. At least I think Yeezus, one of the reasons it was so influential was how good it was at integrating European electronic dance music sounds, particularly kind of industrial dance sounds into hip-hop, and we hear that a lot in here. A lot of psychotic sounds, sirens, and screaming. So, as far as the actual flow goes, he does not have a very consistent flow. At times, he'll do a kind of staccato triplet flow, which is in vogue now. It works pretty well with the German language. At other times, he sort of whispers. Sometimes he yells. Sometimes he sings. I can't quite figure out what the real Dissy is. I don't know what the real Dissy sound like. And I don't even know if it really matters. As far as I can tell, based on what that one person said on Reddit and what I was able to translate, the lyrics are mostly just about his life and about being kind of a loser and about like hip hop and how hard it is to make a life as an artist. Tons of nerd references, which I did get. Draco Malfoy, Slytherin, Khaleesi, Jon Snow, Street Fighter. You know, kind of a typical rapper in that way. Or maybe sort of a typical white underground rapper, making a lot of kind of nerd culture references. Although actually, I don't think it's really racial, because underground rappers of all races, when they're nerdy, it doesn't really matter. They all reference the same 3 or 4 things. So I'm maybe gonna take that back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the album track by track, but what I like to do is I like to pick one song for you to listen to see if you like it, and this will be the song that I use as the example song. So I'm gonna put a link to it up there. It's called Psycho Blick Dissy. I don't know what it means. But this song is a great example of the amount of different things that happen within each song on this album. It starts off almost with like a Mortal Kombat intro, just for like 5 seconds, develops from the instrumental part that just came before it, and then these beautiful industrial sounds happen with these nice low growling rhymes, almost like trap beats, but then more industrial sounds. The second chorus is very different from the first, kind of cool staccato rapping at times too, and this moaning keyboard. So often the sounds in this album are moaning. Ugh. Very clear the Yeezus influence. Very nice flow in the verse. I don't know what he's saying, but I like the way he's saying it. A lot of English words that I understood in this song. Jon Snow, cornrows, Google, conscious rapper, clicks all the time. So I was able to pick out all those things. I don't know how they all relate to each other. There's like an outro that's a sung outro. Like seriously, the song just goes all over. It like starts with and then ends with this nice singing bit. And what's cool is right before the song outro, there's this nice siren sound, just this mournful low siren sound. So it's just going all over the place. He's doing so much here. Here are some of the lyrics that I translated, which I don't know if this is a good example of what he does. But I think this is interesting. I think it maybe shows what some of the album is about. Hip-hop from back then is just music for mommy and daddy to dance to. You come to the party and you stress for no reason. Like the US and the Iraq War. The hell? Rappers are on the wrong track. And she's doing auto-tune nows. Hand out the mollies and arms go up at the trailer park party. I'm not cool with anyone anymore. I'm Draco Malfoy. So, a reference to America's disastrous war in Iraq. Rappers are on the wrong track. Like doing drugs. And it seems clear that what he's trying to do is pose himself as someone who's not cool, who's not a part of this scene that's capable of doing these things, of making parties for the trailer parks. Instead, he's just sort of an outsider. As he will describe later, he is a freak. So I think if you listen to that song, I hope, you discovered that it's very listenable, and I think you should listen to it. Like, I'm going to continue listening to Dissy, and for that matter, also Kool Savas. I really enjoyed that album as well. It's not like alternative rap is the only good rap, right? There's a great ecosystem, apparently in all countries, between the alternative and the mainstream. So I'll go through the rest of the album track by track. It begins with one of these sort of instrumental intro that leads with him keep on talking about clicks. He talks a lot about clicks in this. I think it's about the difficulty of making money as an artist based on clicks. The next song is called Click, arpeggiated, dirty synthesizer with an 80s drum machine. The switches up the flow in the second verse, more industrial sounds in the back, and then the bridge breaks down and it's just him singing with a piano. The outro, he changes his tone again. It becomes more muted with the sound of a full choir in the back, and then he yells at the end. His voice is doing so much, there's so much happening on here. Another instrumental track, and then the song Error Sound, a little more English in this one, a haunting beat in the back, a real head nodder. Like you listen to Error Sound, you can just put this on in the back and just nod your head. As the chorus comes in, it does this great thing with the rhythms, with these claps on the 2 and the 4, with the booming 808 bass and the flow. This may be the best flow on the album. Just, if you don't understand the words, you have to pay attention to the flow. I just love this sound that he's able to create on this album, or that they're able to create. Then comes the Psycho Bleak Dissy. And then the next track is called Du hast mein Herz im Darknet verkauft, which I believe means you sold my heart on the darknet. So I think this is probably a little bit of humor because he's singing. It's a very kind of upbeat, almost like this is Sprocket's drum machine. Very simple bass. Starts with a nice Yeezus scream. He sings kind of in a high register, or actually someone else sings in a high register, someone named Moat, and has this whole weird tone to it. And then even a guitar comes in. There's a lot of guitar on this album that's really well made and really well produced. Would you like to hear the English words that I understood in this rap song? Here we go. I'm telling you this because it's informative for the perspective and the humor that I believe exists in this album. Bitcoin, Zac Efron, Street Fighter, I'm from Capcom. Okay. Next song is another instrumental that leads into a song called Côte d'Azur, which I believe is a reference to the Côte d'Azur in France. the famous luxury location for vacation. A very guitar-led song with a drum machine. It's really quite nice. I think it is about the Côte d'Azur, but I think this is one of these songs that's like talking about how you aren't rich, or how you're not comfortable being on the beach, or how you're not I don't know, I don't understand the lyrics, but I imagine that it's an ironic usage of this evocative image of the Côte d'Azur in France, and oh, I can't wait to be there where it's warm and sunny. The way that he sings it in the chorus, Côte d'Azur, like he sings it like an angry teenager, and I think that's on purpose. As far as I can tell, I think he's saying "Fly with me" in German, if I had to guess. A very catchy chorus, and then the second verse, he never leaves it alone. He never just like does something and then it's over. Like he builds on the second verse and creates this really nice industrial bass underneath. The next track is called Meet. This has some synthesizer strings, 808 drums, but the voice is way up front on this. This is cool because the production's kind of taken a back seat to just the repetition of this word, meet. Now I know what the word meet means. It means with. I don't know much German. I've been to Germany a couple times. When I was in high school, I was obsessed with the films of Wim Wenders and Werner Herzog. They're films of the 70s. So I used to like watch all these road movies by Wim Wenders. And when I was a young man, I actually went to Germany and I traveled all around Germany and I stayed in all these Campingplatz, which are like camping sites. I would sleep in my car and just drive around. So I tried to learn a little bit of German there, but all I ended up learning was like mit Gugelhopf, which means with a cake, 20 Zigaretten, which means 20 cigarettes, and of course, ich bin auf der Autobahn. So that's basically it. That was basically all I ended up learning of German. But meet was one of these prepositions that I knew as meaning with. But what's cool is it also means mid, like middle. So the song seems to be, based on the lyrics I could translate, sort of playing around with this same syllable, meet, having these multiple different meanings. And each verse, each line starts with meet and then something else. And he uses the language to create a certain rhythm. It's a thing that I talk about a lot on this channel. Every language has its own rhythm. When an American rapper can switch into Spanish, when a French rapper can switch into Arabic, whenever anyone raps in any other language, you have to listen carefully and see the way that the words themselves create their own rhythms. This feels to me, as someone who's fairly ignorant, a very interesting use of German with these kind of short staccato syllables, right? What's cool is that each verse starts very sparse. Meet, like meet, M-I-T, meet, it has a very sound, right? Like it makes you want to create just a little pat, you know? But as the verse continues, it builds up and gets more and more epic by the end of the verse. More and more sounds come in, and it's a very neat trick. The next track is called Pikachu Pillin', which I think is about a pill that looks like Pikachu. It's not quite as good as the rest. A nice kind of like Yeezus bass line. I think it's about being bored at a party, which is one of my favorite. I have to move to get out of the way of the sun here. I'm in the Côte d'Azur. But that's the end of the first half. And then the second half of the album does something very neat. He actually says multiple sentences with his song titles, okay? So he takes, he even has commas and periods in his song titles. So if you just take each track of the second half, it says this line, these lines. I am a freak, but I don't have any fear, even if in September everything again goes wrong. Murphy's Law is my recipe for success, so run. That's what it says all the way throughout. If you just read the track listing, it says that sentence. I can't think of another artist who's used a track listing to make a sentence before, so this is quite an interesting idea, and I like it. So it begins with Ich bin ein, I know what that means. Another German sentence that all Americans know, Ich bin ein Berliner, which JFK, of course, said, I am a jelly donut. So Ich bin ein, and then the song Freak. So when I heard the song was going to be called Freak, I assumed it was going to be a sex song about what a crazy freak he is. I looked it up. It's actually not. It's about how like he's an outsider with his hood always pulled over his head, and just how he's just kind of outside of society. He's a freak in that way. This song, the production, god damn it, I love this production. He takes a sample of himself saying, Ich bin ein Freak, Kapuze tiefer, which is like hood down, I'm a freak, hood down. And he just manipulates it and puts it in the background. It's playing all the time. Ich bin ein Freak, Kapuze tiefer, ich bin ein Freak, Kapuze tiefer. Very catchy, very interesting, very avant-garde and in your face with its creativity. And it plays all the time in the back, and it goes really well with an 808 drum beat. Kind of a weird singing rap style. At times it does remind me of Post Malone, but I don't know. He uses the English word hot pants. Is hot pants a German word? I don't know. A beautiful outro with some low, dirty synth bass. Almost sounds like horror rap at times. The next main song is called Angst, which turns out means fear. I thought it meant like anxiety, but it means fear. And this, he says in the song that it's going to be a party banger. Ich mach einen Partybanger für den Club, which I believe means I'm making a party banger for the club. And it feels like it, like he screams angst. It almost sounds like a pop punk song at times. Very upbeat and motivating. You know, you could really like work out to this song. It's really quite nice. The next instrumental track, Auch wenn bis, is really haunting. Weird sample, reversed and distorted just for a full minute. I would listen to this if I were you. Just take a second to listen to how cool this atmosphere is. It's almost like an atmospheric instrumental song. That leads into September, which is a great mixture of his melodic side and his rapping side. Very introspective, it seems. It kind of ends up going into kind of like a house jam as well. Has sparse bits, singing, guitar, and then even at the end, some of it reminds me of Afrika Bambaataa and his old school hip hop sounds, which again has German DNA in it. Wieder alles schief geht. Weird guitar samples. I wish they did more with this. This leads into Murphy's Law, which is probably my least favorite track on the album. He's kind of yelling in too many parts. There's like a chorus where I think he references Jersey Shore. I guess the Germans got Jersey Shore. I apologize. But a nice beat change at the end with some distorted guitar. And then at the very end, we have the song Run. Nice haunting voice, the beginning of the chorus. A lot of the album feels kind of underwater and far away. At times he just straight up yells. It's fairly unpleasant hearing people yelling in German. So I don't know, maybe it's just the nature of the language, maybe it's the historical implications. So I'm happy that there wasn't more yelling on here. I think it's probably good that there's some, just because it shows the amount of dynamics that Dissy has with his rapping, where he's just able to go from, being, whispery and quiet and weird and yelling, and a really nice kind of catchy thing in the background, Baby Lauf, which means run, baby. Because, of course, the Germans put verbs at the end of the sentence, which is really weird, I think. That was hard for me to do. So there you go. There's my review of the album by Dissy. And I am curious, if you have never listened to German rap, do you find this as enjoyable as I do? Is this really that hard to listen to? Part of this was a test. I always want to test myself because I expect Americans to listen to French rap. Can I listen to rap where I don't understand anything? Yes, I can. It's quite good. And if you are German, guten Tag. Danke for, watching the video. What am I missing? Like, what are the things, especially if you have a lot of thoughts about this video, please let me know, and I'll even pin them to the top, because I want to know, I want to have a better idea about where this fits in the continuum of German hip-hop music. What did I get wrong about German hip-hop music? What did I get right? And I don't know. I just love hip-hop. It's just great. Okay, well, until next time, for my favorite actor of all time, I don't even think I know how to pronounce his name, Rutger Volger. He was the main actor for Wim Wenders in the 70s. He's in this movie called Kings of the Road. Oh, it's such a great movie. It's just about him driving around in Germany. And there's a part where he takes a dump on screen. And it's not like supposed to be gross. It's just part of his life. Wim Wenders did all these movies in the 70s about going on these road trips through Germany. So when I went to Germany, I'm like, I'm gonna do that, you know? And I bought a bunch of Kraftwerk CDs, and I bought a bunch of Chuck Berry CDs, because Wim Wenders loves Chuck Berry. And I bought Nina and Nina Hagen, and, you know, I bought all this German music. And I was expecting to have this great German road trip. But the country's so small. I drove from like one end to the other in like a day. I was like, how do they make a 4-hour movie about somebody traveling around this very, very small country? It's kind of funny, because Europeans don't know how big America is. You know, they just assume, many Europeans assume you can go to Miami and New York on the same trip with no difficulty. And I had the opposite problem. I thought that getting from Munich to Hamburg would take me a week, you know, as opposed to like a day. Okay, that's a random story, no one cares. All right, well, there's the camera.